Dr. Shabir, welcome to Let the Quran Speak.
My pleasure, as usual.
We talk about the Quran being revealed to the Prophet Muhammad, but it didn't come down as a book right into his hands. Like he was kind of looking up into the heavens and it came into his hand. It was revealed over a period of time, right?
Yes.
In a specific locale. So can you talk about that, Dr. Shabir?
Well, yes. There's a benefit in each conception. Like conception one, the book comes right out of heaven into the hands of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And, it's all planned out by God. And here is, statute 1, statute 1.1, 1.1.1a, and all of that.
Like the instructions. You get them all
so
at
you can
one
have
point.
that,
Yeah.
then this is our manual to consult for, almost anything. We have the answers ready-made in all detail. But if God had done it that way, imagine how straitjacketed Muslims would have been. Like right now, we have the luxury, if I put it that way, of confronting an issue that's difficult for us, and we find some interpretation that makes it easy for Muslims to live their lives in a way that is pleasing to God, we hope. But at the same time, that is practical on the ground. Whereas if you had stipulations from God that is so clear and so laid out systematically, then life would have been very straitjacketed. There would be no room for interpretation.
And I think it would have been very overwhelming for the people, right? To suddenly get all these rules and then have to apply them in their lives.
That's another issue, because here we have the people on the ground. They're already accustomed to a non-Islamic way of life, a way of life that is characterized by Muslims, in retrospect, as the period of Jahiliyyah, of ignorance. So to get them out of that and into the Islamic way of thinking and practice would have been difficult. So, for example, there were people who imbibed wine a lot. So for the Quran to reach its goal of saying, you're not to drink wine anymore, this could not be done overnight. So the divine wisdom was such that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was delivering piecemeal revelations to them a bit at a time, coaxing them along the way. Like, for example, one piece of the revelation telling them that there are benefits and harms in wine drinking. Another piece telling them when they drink, they should not come to the prayer. And the third and final piece of revelation saying to them, okay, you're not allowed to drink. So with this gradual implementation in mind, it became easy for the people to assimilate into the Quranic mindset and to develop the way the Quran wants them to develop.
Now, the Quran was revealed over a period of, I believe, 23 years, and sometimes they're divided into two parts, the Mecca phase and the Medina phase. Can you speak about that a little bit, Dr. Shabir?
Yes. So I was going to say, and now it ties really into this, that one of the benefits of this gradual revelation is that instead of giving all of the commandments at once, and much of it will not be relevant at the moment, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was inspired to recite that much of the revelation which was most relevant to the circumstances at the moment. So we can divide the circumstances in his remaining life into two broad portions, each about 10 years in length. The first portion is about 13 years, to be more precise, and the second portion about 10 years. So the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, started to receive his revelations when he was about 40 years old. He passed away when he was about 63. So we're dealing with a 23-year period. The first 13 years of that, he lived in his hometown in Mecca, and the circumstances therein were very different from the circumstances in the last 10 years when he migrated to Medina. And so the verses which are more appropriate to the first circumstance were revealed in that milieu, and then the verses which were more appropriate to the second period of his prophethood were revealed likewise in that milieu.
Can we know for certain that this chapter was revealed in Mecca or Medina?
It's not always known for certain.
Okay.
And part of the complication as well is that, let's say we take a chapter and we say that this chapter as a whole was revealed in the Meccan phase. But lo and behold, there may be a verse or two within that long chapter that are said to have been revealed in the latter phase, but they were inserted in here later on by divine instruction.
Okay.
So that adds to some complications. But what is more to the heart of the issue here, and what contributes to the uncertainty, is that while the wording of the Quran for Muslims have been handed down in a way that gives us full assurance that these are the words of the Quran, the reports about which chapter was revealed in which phase and on which occasion, and which verses were revealed in another phase to be inserted into this longer chapter, those reports are not so very well preserved.
Okay.
Reports were handed on by word of mouth from the earliest witnesses to the compilers of the narratives into written form. And much of this was passed on by word of mouth for some generations until they were put into the written form that we have them. So those reports are not so very certain. So that leaves some vagueness. But that doesn't mean we're totally clueless. We have some clues. And it's not only Muslim students of the Quran who can feel some confidence in segmenting the two phases. But also non-Muslims have worked on this. For example, a German scholar by the name of Theodor Noldeck. And his work has been followed up by others who have made adjustments to his scheme. And most recently, we have had Angelika Neuwirth, also a German scholar. And, the German scholars actually were pioneers in the historical critical study of the Bible. And when they finished with that, they turned their attention to the Quran as well. So we have a lot of German scholars working on this.
So let's say we look at the Meccan phase. What are the common themes that come out of that phase that we can say, okay, this verse or this Quranic chapter looks like it came from the Mecca phase or the Medina phase, for example?
So the themes are one of the indications. I can mention some other indications, but let's stick with themes for the moment. Like, we come to a chapter, how do we know that this one is a Meccan chapter? Or
we get a hint.
We get a hint. It's one of the salient characteristics. So one of the salient characteristics is that it will talk about belief in God, and belief in the life hereafter, and belief in the message that has come from God. So the Muslim understanding of this is that in the earliest phase,
in the Mecca phase,
it was necessary for the belief system to be imbued into the minds of the believers. Get them strong and fortified as believers, and then you can give them commands later on. Like, if people don't believe in God, it's pointless to say to them, God said you shouldn't steal. Because the guy is going to say, well, I don't believe in God. What are you talking about? I steal, I'm get rich, I'm happy, So, but if you first get them to believe strongly in God, then they're prepared to receive whatever commandments. So to this extent, there is a narrative which is credited to our mother of the faith, Aisha, God be pleased with her. She says that if at the inception the Quran had said to the Meccans, thou shalt not commit adultery, they're going to say, we will commit adultery, so arrogant and full of hubris they were, and accustomed to their way of life. But the Quran gradually implemented the system of belief first, and then gave them the commands later on, so that when the commands came, they were ready and willing and able to abide by the commands.
So, Dr. Shabir, in the Medina phase, I guess this is when you see the commands.
Exactly.
All of the commands.
Yeah. Yes. So that's a neat division right there. The beliefs are stressed in the earlier chapters without mention of commands, and then in the later chapters you have the commands, and still the beliefs are reproduced, or people are reminded of the key beliefs, but the focus on commands here are very prominent in the Medinan phase. And Sophia, this is an important thing for people to bear in mind. Like, let's say we want to implement Islam on the ground, whether it's the Taliban trying to do it or any other Muslim group anywhere in the world. They say we want to implement Islam on the ground. You cannot do it overnight, because you cannot change people overnight. People will rebel. They will hate the religion that you're trying to enforce on them. You have to give them a chance, teach them, educate them, gradually coax them and persuade them, mold the society so that they become ready to receive the commands of God. They will then demand it. Tell us what's the command of God, because we want to fulfill the command of God.
Thank you for that, Dr. Shabir.
You're welcome.
If you enjoyed this video, click like and subscribe. And please donate to support our work at QuranSpeaks.com.